let's get started. I'll put us on mute just for comfort. And we're actually going to start laying down. And of course, if you need anything, let me know. If I ever sound weird, let me know. If you have any questions about our poses, let me know, right? For all of us here, whether you type them in the chat or you just take yourself off mute and let me know verbally, whatever's good for you is good for me. So let's lay down. You might use a pillow or a blanket to support yourself, almost as if you're coming into Shavasana. Maybe not as comfortable, but something like that. At least energetically speaking. Right? You might move through the shoulders and wiggle the arms for a moment. You might roll into the ankles and let the legs relax as close or as wide as you'd like them to. But let yourself take a moment to settle here. Closing the eyes. As you begin to notice your breath, take a sweep of consciousness. Allow the body to relax. Whatever that might mean for you right now in our Shavasana shape. Beginning to let the body soften, unclench the jaw, release the shoulders, softening into the low back, the spine. I even feel the backs of the knees breathe a bit as your heels relax towards the ground. And just come connected to the surface beneath you. Whether you're laying on your mat or a blanket or a rug, and then what's underneath that, feeling held here. And the body almost holds us in this cocoon-like shape, cradling the body, cradling the bones and the muscles and the organs, everything that the fascia and our tissues hold together. Resting within this cocooned space, there is stillness, there's quiet. Maybe you'll arrive into some intentions for practice, anything that you may have thought about prior to class. Maybe nothing at all, and your intention is just to be present. But as we feel held by the body, cradled by the body, maybe you can feel the netting of the tissues here, whether you relate it to the space of a cocoon or the space of a hammock. Whatever might be guiding you into that comforted, seen, and heard environment. And just letting yourself fully arrive. Beginning to draw your senses inwards if you haven't already. Continuing to become more and more aware of the body. Feeling heard and seen and witnessed, comforted. All by your own undivided attention. In the same way we arrive into Shavasana when we close a practice. What happens when we arrive into this Shavasana space in the beginning of practice? It might excite the body. Maybe it grounds you. Maybe it centers you. Maybe it gives you a glimpse into what your meditative mind will feel like today in practice. There's no successful way. There's no way to fail at it. And just allowing yourself to arrive into the space of your own company. Almost as if we are everywhere and nowhere at once. So with that in mind, let's allow ourselves to open up our space for practice with a cleansing breath. We'll just do cleansing breaths here since we're laying down. Let's breathe in through the nose. And open the lips to exhale. Again, like that, deep breath in. And a deep breath out. One more time, full breath in. And a full breath out. And as we gently awaken ourselves from this shape, we might move through the fingers and toes, wrists and ankles. We might stretch the arms up and above the head as we bend into the knees and bring the feet flat to the floor. You might readjust your tailbone and even hug your knees into the chest and just awaken the body with some gentle movement, rocking side to side. And then since we're laying, let's start our practice in dove. So we're going to bring our feet flat to the floor. You're going to open your left knee. So we're going to start on the left side. Open the left knee. Left hip will open up as well here. You might have a pillow or blanket for the back of the head. You might find a pillow or a block or something to prop this left knee if you need to, if it's helpful. Sometimes too, your hips or your low back might also want to support just because there's a tilt to the pelvis. So if you feel like that is good, you might bring a pillow or blanket underneath your right hip. Okay, but that's just one variation. If you feel like you can, if the body would like to stretch a little bit more, you'll take that left foot and walk it underneath your right thigh. Some people might bring this left heel towards your right glute. Some people might bring the top of the left foot closer towards your right foot, anywhere in between. So feel free to kind of drive the stretch depending on what works for your body today. Your hands might stay relaxed on your body, off to the sides of the body, or they could stretch up above the head. And so feel free to do whatever is best for you. And then we're going to arrive into dove. Of course, for a few moments, you might readjust before you fully settle into stillness, and that's okay. Eventually, though, you'll come to stillness, allow the eyes to soften. Maybe they close entirely. Again, there's no way to be, I don't know what word is the right word to use, but there's no way to be awesome at this, and there's no way to fail at it. There's just a way to be. Allowing yourself to arrive into your practice. And sometimes it's going to be really easy to just settle. Other times it might be a little bit more challenging. But there's no grading. So let yourself arrive into the stretch just open-mindedly and open-heartedly. beginning to soften into the stretch. Can you feel your muscles relaxing, the bones relaxing? Our tissues are holding the body like this netting, this hammock, there's this buoyancy within the body. And in a gentle way, we are cocooning each muscle, each bone, each organ. And so as we stay in stillness, we'll allow the body to feel held. Softening will help the body to feel whole. So I'll give you some space here, arriving into your meditation, just into the presence of the body, the breath. And of course, if you'd like to stay longer in dove, you're more than welcome to. Or very gently, we'll begin to awaken the arms and the hands. We'll let them lower down to the hips and help that left leg lift. Hug that left knee into the chest, maybe. And as you hug that shin in towards you, the right knee can come in as well. And you can again wrap around your shins or the backs of the thighs and rock gently side to side. Any counter movements that will be supportive. You might straighten your legs up to the ceiling or to the floor. And let the legs dangle. You can have the arms stretch, whatever feels comforting. But eventually the body will settle right into its space, taking a moment of nourishment, that pause and rebound, whether you're on your back, on your belly, maybe you've decided to come up and sit. Just take that mindful moment to pause. Each rebound almost being like a mirror, maybe a water, or the reflection of ourselves within the water. Feeling those subtle sensations, fascial tissue contracting back. So if you'd like to stay here a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to stay in rebound. But if you're choosing to come into dove on the opposite side, then we'll awaken a little bit here. You might take a counter movement, even awakening from rebound. And then we're going to let ourselves bring our feet flat to the floor again. Right knee will now open up to the side. And same idea, you might prop your right knee, you might prop underneath the left hip. Right foot will stay where it is, or it's going to walk underneath the left leg. Any amount, high to the left glute, lower towards the left heel. Arms are resting wherever you'd like them to. And of course, if you have any questions, let me know. But wherever the body is stretching, that will be the best place. It's the first sign of the knots of tissue that the body is carrying or is holding on to. We can literally alter aspects of our anatomy by letting ourselves stretch, letting ourselves lengthen these tissues as they regain as well as reclaim space and functionality. And so softening here whenever you're ready. Letting go of any clenching, any gripping. Noticing any shifts within the breath. As the fascia lengthens, as we stretch through the tissues and webbing of the body, as they release unnecessary tension, so will the breath. So we still have some time here. Notice your meditative focus or awareness, giving yourself that undivided attention. If you'd like to stay a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to. If you're choosing to release, then we'll start to lower the arms and hands down towards the hips. Your right palm can reach towards your right knee. Gently hug that leg into the chest if you'd like. Lengthen the back body. And maybe both knees hug in. And you can rock a little bit. Again, you have the option to straighten the legs up to the ceiling. Your hands can hold on the backs of the hamstrings. Let the legs dangle, move through the feet. Maybe your legs lower down towards the floor and the arms will rest somewhere. But finding that space to rebound. Maybe you're on your back, maybe you're on your side body. The worth of the practice isn't defined by anything that you can see externally. The worth of the practice is not defined by the variation of the stretch that you're in. It's really defined by just showing up and listening. So letting yourself soften here, even in rebound. And if you'd like to stay here a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to do so. But instead, if you'd like to release, we'll begin to awaken. And you might find a counter movement or two, whatever feels good for the body. And then we're going to let ourselves gently come up to sit. However you'd like to get there, no rush. We're going to let ourselves arrive. So we don't do this often, at least in my yin classes, but we're going to do it today because it's always good to switch it up. But malasana or yogi squat is also, we also practice it in yin, but we're not going to hold it without any props. I will guide us to use some props. So whether you have one block or you might need 2 blocks to create this seat for yourself. If it's not blocks, it might be 2 books, 3 books. It might be pillows. You might have a hard enough bolster, right? And that's high enough. So you can kind of choose how you want to create your seat for yourself. But we're going to let ourselves come to sit. I mean, I would use 1 block, but right now I'm going to try it with 2. Yeah, so however you want, 1 block, 2 blocks. But you're going to come to sit on something so that your tailbone is supported. We're still going to bring our palms together and we're going to bring our elbows in towards the inner knees, right? When we're usually practicing malasana in like a vinyasa class or a hatha class. Now we're going to start here. We will eventually let the arms relax, but we're not going to do that just yet. Elbows aren't going to press super far, right? It's just like this gentle connection. So take your time if your child is still trying to find the best variation in terms of how high or low you should be propped. Your feet can be as close or as wide or as far as you'd like, right? Sometimes you're going to get more of an inner thigh stretch the more you walk your feet away from you. And then again, that connection between the elbow and the knee is going to be different. It's going to be more into the inner leg, and that's fine. So we're going to start here with the palms pressing. Right? Your chin might be neutral or you'll gently relax the chin. Walking the feet as wide or as close as you need to, let yourself explore where your toes should point so that you can find different stretches, different engagements through the fascial tissue. Just holding up the spine is engaging for the fascia as well. Also rounding. Right? So feel free to explore what works best for you. But let go. You can let go of the palms and you can drop the arms down when you feel ready. If you feel like you need to help, stay balanced with the palms together, that's fine. Keep them at the heart, but when you feel ready, you can let them go. Eyes closed as we settle here. If you ever feel like you're losing focus, bring the palms back towards heart center again. Catch your breath. And then you might release them. And so in the shape here, a little bit more active. But how can we find that sense of comfort, that same sense that we may have felt in dove while resting towards the floor? How can we welcome that and cultivate that here? And if you're not softening for the experience of the body, soften for the experience of the mind. Relax your jaw and shoulders. Soften through the belly and the hips. Still feeling held here, even though we're sitting tall. The fascia can become healthier as we soften into it, but also when we slightly engage it, like we are here. Reminding ourselves what it feels like to truly hold up the muscle, to truly hold up the bone, the weight of the organ. We're going to be here for a few more breaths. Of course, if you'd like to stay here a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to. But if your palms are still relaxing towards the floor, you might bend at the elbows, bring the palms back to prayer. You might lean into one arm and bring your hand on the leg and then lean into the other. Help your feet a little bit closer if they were far out. All intuitive movement here. So the body might just gracefully bring you off of your props. Maybe you end up in a forward fold or a tabletop shape. Maybe you're swaying the hips forward and back, left to right. Maybe the hips are moving in some circles. Maybe you're finding cow and cat. It just depends on where the body brings you. But just listening and tuning in, coming into any counter movement. Body might then rest in child's pose. Maybe your knees come really close. Your chest is resting on your thighs as you relax your head. Maybe you're in another variation or just something different. Maybe you're on your back. Instead of the practice being defined by set shapes, we're just noticing what shapes the body creates within our time here. Softening even in your rebound space. Taking that moment to observe and witness. And then whenever you're ready, we'll gently begin to press down. We might come up to sit, or you might stay laying if you're laying, just so that we can take a few counter movements as we awaken from rebound. Okay. And today in practice, we're going to do this laying down, sitting up sequence. So now it's time to lay upon our backs again. We're going to come into our twists. Either we take supine or pinwheel today, and we'll talk about those. So first twist, we're going to twist to the right so that the left leg is on top. You might have a pillow or a blanket to support the back of the head. As we hug our knees in, you can always come into supine here, whether you let that pillow rest underneath the right leg or in between the inner legs, or you're going to come into pinwheel. Pinwheel, you're going to hug your left knee into your chest. So this leg is now higher as you let yourself twist to the right. Your right knee is lower as the left knee is higher, right? You might readjust your right hip. Maybe you're going to take a pillow or blanket for this inner left leg. And if you do decide to take pinwheel, the right knee can stay bent, but some people might straighten the leg, and that might give you more space and even some relief in your low back. So feel free to do what's best for you, whether it's pinwheel or supine. Now your arms can open out into a T shape. Maybe your arms rest a little lower. Maybe your arms rest a little higher. One arm might be different, depending on how that left shoulder feels. So if you have any questions, let me know. But we're going to let ourselves arrive into the stretch. Not rushing for the deepest sensation, the quickest. Pace yourself here. I'm talking about this cocoon type of feeling, this place of rest within our practice. I ended up seeing like a quote randomly today, or a poem actually by Hope Florence. No idea who this person is, but she says here, oftentimes the answers to our greatest questions live in the spaces between thoughts, the silence between noise, the stillness between everything, and the nature between the world. And maybe that's what this cocoon or just cradling type of feeling, maybe that offers to that as well. Oftentimes the answers to our greatest questions live in the spaces between thoughts, the silence between noise, the stillness between everything, and the nature between the world. We as well are in this in-between place within our practice. Continue softening here. We'll stay in our twist for a few more breaths. Maybe taking one more full inhale and exhale here. And then when you feel ready, we'll begin to gently release. Taking your time as your arms begin to unravel, legs unravel. Feet might press to the floor just to readjust the hips, windshield wipering the legs. Whatever feels good for the body. Eventually arriving into rebound. Whether you're observing sensations from the previous twist or maybe one of the previous poses. Our fascia continuously contracting back, this new information settling into the muscle memory of the body. Observing our nervous system re-regulating. If you'd like to stay here a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to stay and rebound. But in the event you would like to come into the twist on the opposite side, now we're going to be twisting to the left so that the right leg is on top. You might take a few counter movements. Sometimes, if you have some props to bring to the opposite side, you can do that. And as we twist to the left, option to hug the knees in, supine twist, or you'll pinwheel. So you'll hug your right knee in, just your right knee. As we twist to the side, that leg is over the left. And you might continue to adjust on that left hip. If you end up taking pinwheel, your left leg might straighten as your right knee stays bent. From there, arms opening out to a T shape or a cactus shape. Maybe more of like a diagonal. Maybe there's no name in the arms, just rest. As you feel sensations in different areas of the body, knowing that the fascia will stretch wherever is most needed. And as we let go of any clenching or any gripping, layer by layer.
Checking in with the breath from time to time. And feeling held not just within the stillness or the structure of the body, but maybe feeling held within that quieter space around you. Noticing what happens in between our thoughts. But we'll be here for a few more breaths. Maybe taking one more full cycle of breath. And then you can choose to release whenever you're ready. Sometimes the body doesn't move just yet, and the mind awakens. And then one moment at a time, your arms will awaken with movement, your legs will awaken with movement, guiding the body back to center. And sometimes there's a counter movement through the torso, or maybe the body just arrives into rebound. And feeling the body's subtle sensations, almost like a pulse. Just taking that moment to observe, taking that moment to witness. And softening even in this time of rebound. If you'd like to stay a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to do so. But if you're choosing to release, then we'll begin to do that. We'll come up into our next stretch. If you want to hug the knees into your chest, if you're still laying down, feel free. Maybe there's a counter movement you'd like to take. And then we might roll to one side of the body and come up to sit slowly. If you're already sitting, then we'll meet you there in just 1 second. But as we release from rebound, sometimes the body does want to take other movements. So if your arms want to stretch, or if you want to even take a seated twist, you can, whatever feels good. We're going to prepare ourselves here for caterpillar. So that's going to be a forward fold. Now, we might have a pillow or blanket support us. We're not sitting like exactly on top of it like we did for Malasana, but just right at the edge so that we can help support the pelvis as we're forward folding and the back. But anyway, our legs are going to lengthen. Now my blanket's too high, just right at the edge. Okay. Legs lengthen here. This is our caterpillar shape. Now, you might take blocks and bring them to the outsides of your knees, blocks or books, whatever you might have. And then maybe a pillow, a bolster, something across that, as close or as far as you'd like, depending on how you want to fold. You might just keep stacking things and stay pretty neutral. I mean, to be honest, because of the lift of the spine, there's still sensation to be felt. But if you do choose to round and just take it a different way, that's good too. Just depends on your body, what you'd like to explore, but they're both meditative and they're both going to give you benefits to the fascia. In the event you don't have blocks, you might just stack up pillows and blankets and leave them, long ways along your legs to lean forward with. Maybe you'll fold things, stack things a little bit higher so that your forehead rests. So you can be as creative as you'd like here.
Maybe taking a blanket underneath the backs of the knees if you feel that will be supportive. Maybe your knees don't straighten completely, or maybe your knees, lock or hyperextend. That was the word. Thank you. If you thought about it, you sent it to me telepathically. So we'll settle into caterpillar. Beginning to close the eyes. Noticing where the body might be clenching. And if you need to, for whatever reason, you're welcome to, but if you notice how it's not as helpful, then maybe you ask yourself to just gently release it, letting go of the jaw, softening through the shoulders. What happens when we relax through the diaphragm and the abdomen? That might help relax through the glutes. So notice how the body can benefit from this softening. We learn the difference between engaging a muscle and clenching a muscle. And checking in with the gaze at the backs of the eyelids. And just noticing your internal screen here. And the eyes are resting. In the same way we release unnecessary pressure in the body as we soften, we can release unnecessary pressure within the eyes as we let them relax.
We're going to hang out in caterpillar for a few more breaths. You can always release sooner. And if you want to meet in rebound, we'll be there soon too. And then with the eyes closed or the gaze soft. If you're still in caterpillar, we'll let ourselves gently release, pressing down. Body slowly lifts up. Maybe even before you move, you just take a breath. If you'd like to start to unravel your props, may just go off to the side. Notice where the body takes you. Are you seated in movement? Are you laying down? Do you go to your belly? Are you in child's pose? Facing any direction within your room and facing any angle along the floor. And there's no one way to experience the practice. We're just truly listening to the body. Noticing any cleansing breaths as the nervous system resets itself here. And pausing once you're in rebound. And just feeling the imprint of the stretch, your body just soaking in that information. If you'd like to stay here a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to do so. If you're ready to awaken gently, then maybe we're moving around, finding a different shape as we release from rebound. Whatever will feel good. We will make our way to our belly though. No rush to get there. But when you do, we're going to set ourselves up for twisted wing. So we might need a pillow or a blanket for this to prop our head. Now, oopsies. We're going to bring our right palm down to the floor so that our chest lifts up a little bit, kind of like thread the needle again in like a vinyasa or hatha type class. Left arm is going to thread through here, right? So as you bring your forehead down, that might be comfortable, or you can turn to the left cheek. Just depends on what you need. I'm going to do it through the other arm just so you can also see it from the other side of things. Now, once you let yourself lay down, you can bring your legs as wide as your mat, if that's most comfortable, or maybe you bring your legs really close. Maybe that's more comfortable. So your choice. But the right arm will rest above. You might pick up your right arm, bend at the elbow, and you can bind behind the back. So whatever feels good. Let me start our timer since we're mostly here. In the event with that left arm threading underneath you, if the outside of your tricep or your shoulder, maybe your arm's really high and you're not fully resting on your belly, which is fine. It might be uncomfortable for the chest or the diaphragm, which is fine. But if you take an extra pillow or blanket and just prop your shoulder. It might not need to be connected to the floor, but at least it's resting near something. Resting on something to feel supported. Okay, but if you have any questions about that, let me know. Forehead coming down or turning to the left cheek. Beginning to soften into the front of the body. Letting go of any clenching or gripping. Again, our time here in stillness just brings us back to that idea of the poem, how oftentimes the answers to our greatest questions live in the spaces between thoughts, the silence between noise, the stillness between everything, and the nature between the world. So yin. Letting our fascia lengthen. Stretching not just to benefit the physical, the body and the functions of our organ systems. Even the benefit of the mind here, receiving new perspective, growth. We'll be here in our stretch for a few more breaths. As we keep the left arm still. If the right arm is resting on your spine, let's lift up the arm slowly, bring it back in front of us. And then as we press down, lifting up through the chest, unraveling that left arm, gently lowering the chest down and just let the arms relax wherever they may. You'll find them settling all on their own. If it feels good, you can bend into the knees and kick up the feet. Gently windshield wipering the legs from side to side. Rocking into the hips gently here. As the legs relax long, your palms might come underneath your shoulders. You might find a low cobra shape, a high cobra shape, maybe a sphinx shape. You could take this all the way to child's pose, down dog. You might just rest on your back or just stay on your belly. But find that space to rebound wherever it brings you. letting the body experience the stretch, its rebound effects as the fascia contracts. The mind within this meditative space and awareness. If you'd like to stay here longer, feel free to do so. Or we'll prepare for twisted wing on the opposite side. So if you're not back on your belly, take your time, right? You'll get there. Then finding that pillow or blanket again, if you're going to use it for your head, your left arm will press down into the floor, right arm threads underneath you. Okay, so we're laying upon our right shoulder or our right arm. It's above the chest, underneath the chin, right? Somewhere along that line. Left palm can rest at the top of the mat, or you might bend into the elbow and take a bind behind the back. The legs can be in a wider V shape or closer towards each other. Whatever will relax the lower body. And again, if the right shoulder lifts up a bit now, you might prop or wedge a blanket or pillow underneath the shoulder and rest of the tricep. Maybe you'll prop one of your hips if one of your hips is lifting a little higher and there's this tilt to the pelvis, which is 100% possible. Not just because of bone structure, but depending on where the tightness of the tissue is pulling or guiding the body. But you'll begin softening whenever you're ready. And softening through the layers of your body here, letting go of unnecessary tension, unnecessary control, but really at your own pace. There's no rush. Checking in with your breath from time to time. And just softening into ourselves, into this stillness, this cocoon shape that cradles us. Buoyant within the waters of our body. And there is this blend of heaviness and lightness, gravity and buoyancy.
As our muscles relax, the bones of the body just floating present like driftwood. We'll be here for a few more breaths in the stretch. And then as we keep the right arm still, left elbow will unbend if it was resting upon your back. And as that palm presses down, we're going to start to lift up into the chest, unthread that right arm. Maybe your arms reach out above you, maybe the elbows bend. But again, as you rest on your belly, you can bend into the knees, kick up the feet, windshield wiper the legs from side to side. That feels good. Your arms might press down so that you once again can lift up the chest and extend the spine. And you might take a child's pose for a breath here, or any other counter movement. But take those counter movements if the body is calling for anything, so that our final rebound is Shavasana. No rush though, you'll take those counter movements and then we'll eventually either A, stay in that counter movement or that counter pose as the Shavasana, or you'll come back to laying down. You might gently guide a blanket or a pillow underneath your knees. Maybe there's a blanket to cover the body. No rush. Maybe a pillow underneath the head. Whatever will be most supportive. But as we come back to stillness, eyes closing, and begin to resonate with that previous stretch. Absorb the entire practice and all poses before. We welcome ourselves here into our quiet and meditative moments of Shavasana.
And very gently, let's begin to deepen the breath. Noticing the way the body has settled. But as you notice the placement of the hands and feet, we can gently awaken by wiggling into the fingers and toes and rolling into the wrists and ankles. Letting your arms stretch up above the head if you'd like to, lengthening through the side bodies. Arms will lower down as the knees bend in, feet come flat to the floor. Whether the knees hug into the chest or you windshield wiper the knees, maybe doing both, depending on what will feel most comforting for the hips as we awaken through the torso and the front and back body. But eventually we'll roll either to the right or to the left. And then you'll feel that release of the back, the breath of fresh air. You can either stay here on your side body or gently press down and walk yourself up to sit. Closing though, however you'd like. But again, we'll find stillness just for that moment of reflection, maybe softening the eyes again. And as we arrive here into our clarity, into our awareness, our expansion. Palms can stay relaxed within the lap, or hands might gather into prayer at heart center. Letting ourselves find this flourishing, this awakening from that cocooned space and cradled experience, just to consistently be seen and heard and comforted. Whether we close with one cleansing breath, or you can join me for the sound of Om as we breathe in. Om. Gently bowing the chin to the chest. Thank you for practicing with me this evening, being elevated through yoga. Namaste.